It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders on his Afternoon Drive. Alan, how we feeling?
Feeling good. Tomlin Tuesday. Got a lot of words that we can try to psychoanalyze, or we can just realize that we're wasting our time. We're back, baby. We're back.
This is how you know officially. So we got a football game played, but this is really what we needed to have happen. Reading into things like this to really be fully back.
Yeah. And there's nothing that as a fan base, Steelers fans love to do more than try to read deeply into Mike Tomlin's attempted evasions of our questions.
Never led us astray in the past, Alan. It's always been true to his word.
Yeah, really. It's just batting 1,000 on these. So why not keep doing it?
Want to start off with if you were sick of this, sorry, it's going to be quarterback heavy at the beginning of this episode. Very quarterbacky. Justin Fields started the first game, started the opener, obviously, with Russell Wilson dealing with that calf tightness, still dealing with that calf tightness, progressing every day, according to Mike Tomlin, but said that they are preparing Justin Fields to be the starter for week 2. He didn't name him the starter for week 2, said they were preparing that way. But some people have already put it out there that Justin Fields is starting week 2, and that is, again, people trying to maybe read into what Mike Tomlin is saying instead of just actually listening to what he's saying.
Mike Tomlin said a whole lot of words about the quarterback situation today, and the only ones of them that had any meaning were that Russell Wilson is not going to practice tomorrow, and Justin Fields is. By preparing as if Justin Fields is going to start, that is the only thing there is to do. I mean, we've talked about how similar stylistically these guys are. It's not like the game plan is going to be dramatically different. I mean, maybe you might call it a little bit differently, but it's not like there's some whole other offense that's waiting for Russell Wilson on the other side. That's just an acknowledgement that Justin Fields is the backup quarterback, and if Russell Wilson is not practicing, then he's working with the ones, and therefore you're preparing as if he's going to be the starter. I don't understand how some people got out of that Justin Fields is going to start. I think if Russ doesn't practice, of course Justin Fields is going to start. If he does, I think Russell Wilson will probably start. This is not rocket science.
So you don't think that we should really be having an opinion or reading into this until later in the week to see if we see Russell Wilson participate on Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, we're probably not going to know until Friday after practice who the quarterback is, at the earliest. I mean, look, he was a game time decision last week. That's not that's not that hurt. He dressed as the emergency backup quarterback. That's not that hurt. He's cleared to play. So, I think there's probably – this is more about how effective he can be than how healthy he is. In terms of he's healthy enough that he is medically cleared to play, obviously, or he wouldn't have been allowed to dress as the emergency quarterback. But he's got to play – he's going to be effective enough at his level of health where it makes sense to play him. This isn't he needs to check boxes for the trainers. This is he needs to check boxes for the coaches. So it's a little bit of a unique situation. I would say it's not usually the way things go, but it's he's going to have to practice and practice well in order for him to play. We're not going to know anything until we see practice a couple times. I expect he will be out there Thursday and Friday in some capacity. I mean, it was out there in some capacity last week, so he's going to be out there in some capacity Wednesday too. But the thing we learned is that Mike Tomlin is not going to be okay with Russell Wilson playing without practicing, and he has yet to practice. So right now, Justin Fields is in line to start, but that could change Thursday afternoon.
Typically, there's not many topics where I'm I don't even know what to add in terms of 2 cents. but I don't even know what else to say about it. Like, it's hard to have an opinion or add anything else to what you're saying, just because I don't think that there's much to be said about it.
Well, I mean, I guess the question is, like, did, in your mind, Justin Fields do enough where Russell Wilson has to be absolutely 100% to play? Or are you willing to entertain the notion of playing Russell Wilson at less than 100%?
I would play Justin again if he's. That's not where I thought you were going with it. I would play Justin again if Russ is still a bit banged up. I thought what you were going to ask me was, did Justin do enough to keep the job even if Russ is healthy? Because I don't think that's a yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's pretty obvious. I mean, he certainly will have the opportunity to do that now, if he starts 2 games.
Well, that's the thing, is the door's still ajar for that to happen.
Right.
Now. If Russ sits a second straight game, then the door's still open for Justin to play well enough against Denver to maybe hold off Russ. I that's again, it's just so interesting to me. But yeah, I don't think that he did enough to hold off a healthy Russ. I think he did enough if Russ is still banged up to go for a second straight week.
And I think he did enough where I agree. Like, if there's any question about Wilson's health or his ability to be effective because of that calf, or I'll go one step further, or any risk of future further injury, whether it's an Achilles or like if Russell Wilson playing means there's a chance that Russell Wilson can tear his Achilles and then he'd be lost for the season, especially this week, man. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting borderline disrespectful, but like, I think the Steelers would be able to beat the Broncos with Kyle Allen. Like, I really do. Like, I think they're the worst team in the league. Like, if there's ever a week to just take it easy and let your guy get healthy, this is the week for me.
You think they're worse than the Panthers or the Giants?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I mean, we'll see how. I don't know if I would, after 1 week. I don't know if I'm there right now, but I think that they're within the bottom 5 for sure for me. And we'll see how things play out. Although I'll be honest, like, just that first statement though, I agree that I think that they would win this game with Kyle Allen as the quarterback if that for whatever reason were the situation. But yeah, as far as the Justin and Russ thing, if you were to tell me, they felt comfortable enough with Russ physically to play in this game, I would say that he should be the starter over Justin. If they don't feel like he's there yet, I'm completely fine with Justin.
I think so too, and I don't think I don't think there's any reason to rush Russ back. It's good for the Steelers to get Fields some game reps. It's an opponent that they should beat no matter who plays the quarterback. I understand that Russ probably really wants to play in this game personally, but I don't think that will matter. I think the Steelers will just, like, this is a perfect time to take it easy. I don't know why you would change things up unless Russ is just demonstratively healthy. He looks, back to the guy he was. And like we said, it took like 3 weeks last time. And, we haven't really gotten a good sense about maybe the level of injury compared to the way it was before, but it certainly seems like something that is not insignificant. So,
Yeah. I get hindsight's 2020, and when you're talking about him playing on a new team within a new offense, wanted to get as many reps as he could despite dealing with that. But like, in hindsight, should he have maybe just not played in the preseason?
I don't know. I mean, he said he felt fine leading up to the day that he heard it in practice. So I feel like these soft tissue injuries are very much like it's fine until it's not, and there's not really anything you can do to prevent these like seemingly sort of random reoccurrences. They just happen. It sometimes doesn't really matter how much you baby someone in their return, but certainly you can try. I don't know. I felt like he had a long build-up to his return. I mean, It was a very long and painful to watch, slow developing process as he got back into the lineup. I don't know how much more slowly they could have taken it, without starting to look farcical. Like it was what? It was 2 weeks where all he did was hand off. I don't know how much more slowly they could have taken things.
Yeah, that's fair. you have anything else to add? Still on the quarterback stuff? I know I don't. I'm just playing it by ear. I'm waiting and seeing how
the one thing that Tomlin said that was not sort of in direct relationship to who plays, but just about Fields in general, is he really gave him credit for managing the running game in terms of not taking big hits and not. I approached that conversation yesterday in terms of like not putting the ball in jeopardy, but we've talked about this before too. Like, you are the backup. You are one hit away from the third stringer now entering the game. I thought Fields did a pretty nice job of taking what was there, but like he slid a couple times. He was going out of bounds. Like he did not take unnecessary punishment in that game either. I thought that was a really good point by Mike Tomlin that I hadn't brought up over the last 2 days.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, that just goes back to he did the little things all well. He didn't turn the football over, understanding the situations like that. Obviously hit on a couple deep shots with really nice balls. He was able to show off that arm as well. Nothing, again, overwhelming about what he did on Sunday, but he knew his place within the structure of that game. Alan, another injury to discuss here. Dan Moore Jr. a little bit banged up, ankle flaring up on him. The great news is, Alan, is we have great health right now amongst the offensive tackles, so this shouldn't be an issue for them to deal with.
Yeah, it's like Dan Moore was like looking around, like he was just over there in that bank of lockers where the offensive line normally sits. He's like, "Where is everybody? Oh, they're all in the training room. Hey, my ankles bother me a little bit. Can I go across the hallway there? Like, I just want to hang out with my guys. I'm getting lonely over here. I'm the only healthy one. It doesn't sound like it's anything major.
Sure.
Something to monitor, of course. We've seen many a times where, something seems like it's minor and then it turns into something more. But as things stand right now, I'm not concerned about Dan playing or not playing in this game. And honestly, as we talked yesterday, I think this may be a blessing in disguise for the team. This is Dan, take it easy. Miss as much practice time as you want. I mean, here's the guy who started 44 games now at left tackle. He certainly does not, need every rep in practice this week. Take it easy. Just take a break and let Broderick Jones get some reps at left tackle, and let's get Troy Fautanu in with the ones there some this week. If I were an extremely suspicious man, I would wonder how injured Dan Moore's ankle really is, because this is extremely convenient timing for the Steelers. I followed that announcement up with a question for Mike Tomlin about how he finds a way to get Troy Fautanu involved in practice and back to competing for a starting role now that the season has started. And he was surprisingly definitive in his answer. He said, it's difficult to do that this time of year, but we're committed to doing it. I mean, that is, in terms of like getting an answer out of Mike Tomlin, that is like the strongest possible terms that he said, like, we are still going to give Troy Fautanu a chance to start games. Like, the door is not closed just because the regular season has started and he has not yet worked with the first team extensively. So, like, it would not surprise me at all if we get out there for practice tomorrow and Dan Moore's in street clothes and Broderick Jones is the left tackle and Troy Fautanu is the right. Doesn't mean that's the way it's going to happen in the game in Denver, but it certainly seems like that's in the cards for at least one day here at practice this week.
If it happens in practice tomorrow because Dan's limited or doesn't participate and Troy does, and that's how it lines up, regardless of what the team's intentions are for the game itself, Steelers Twitter is going to be pounding the table like they already have been. But once they actually see that's taking place on the practice field, pounding the table for that to be the case on Sunday.
You should right now set an over-under for how many views my video of Dan Moore or of Broderick Jones at left tackle and Troy Fautanu at right tackle from tomorrow's practice is going to do.
I will go under Joey Porter Jr. Sprite video, but over a lot of others.
I mean, that's well over 1 million views by now, by the way. Just unbelievable. But, how many? Where are you at with this?
I said under that, but over pretty much everything else. So
okay, I'll say it's something like 3,000, somewhere in that range, I think.
Yeah,
feels about right.
It's like they'd be teasing basically Steelers fans. Like that's giving them a little taste of what they ultimately want. And we'll see if they actually were to do so. But yeah, going back to like the quarterback thing, I mentioned if Justin does get a second straight start, it's kind of leaving the door open. If Dan Moore misses some time here, keeping that door open for Troy.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Tomlin is committed to keeping the door open for Fautanu no matter what. So, I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to see how this plays out. I do really think there's a chance that we get to a point where Fautanu plays at right tackle and it's still Dan Moore at left. And then, Broderick Jones takes some time to get healthy and some time to work at left tackle before eventually getting back into the lineup. I don't know. Yeah. It's very interesting.
On the opposite end of that, the arrow pointing up and should see his work ramp up this week. Roman Wilson, much needed addition to the wide receiver room. Again, we don't know exactly what role he's going to have, how much to be able to do. Didn't even get to see him play in a preseason game, let alone a regular season game. So who knows what he's going to be able to provide for this team. But honestly, with the contributions that they got from the receiver room, not named George Pickens on Sunday, I'm just more curious than anything else what he could bring to the table. And honestly, just getting his feet wet. Like even if it's not much right out the gate, he's got to get out there and get on the field. So what do we make of this?
Yeah, my expectation would be you're looking at something like what we saw from Troy Fautanu last year, like limited full dresses, but doesn't really play very much. That's sort of my expectation for Roman Wilson this week. If, he can do more than that, great. But that's sort of where I think things are going to line up to start. And then, in terms of the long-term outlook at the position, I think I think he can be a contributor this year. I think it's going to take some time. And man, I think people have, I understand that the wide receivers in week one were not particularly good. I get that. But Steelers make two moves on Monday. And my mentions are what about wide receiver? There is no help coming at wide receiver. This is the group. There's no one is walking through that door that's any better than what they've got. I have people in my mentions why won't they get Michael Thomas? I'm like, why won't 31 other teams get Michael Thomas?
Russell Gage,
Donovan Peoples-Jones. These guys aren't going to play special teams, and they're I see no reason to think they're better than Van Jefferson. So, what's the point? I don't see an upgrade out there. I think the wide receivers they have are the wide receivers they're going to have for at least another month and a half.
Mm-hmm. And even if it's
the exception of adding Roman Wilson, they will get him, but that's the only one.
With his names that you brought up too, Russell Gage had a year in Arthur Smith's offense, but I was going to say as well, the marginal upgrade that they could potentially provide, I feel is almost negated by how late they'd be coming in and getting up to speed with the offense. And like you said, if it's a guy that doesn't play special teams either, what value are they adding at this point?
Yeah, I think I like Brandon Johnson better than all of those other options too. I think that
I said I'd give him a helmet on Sunday, or I'd think hardly about giving him a helmet on Sunday.
The only thing I'll say about that is Darius Rush in the concussion protocol means they're down to two potential punt gunners again. Yeah. I think you're going to have to play Skoranek and Scotty Miller. So do you really want another wide receiver dressed?
To be honest,
if Wilson dresses, then I think you probably don't have room for him and Brandon Johnson. But if Wilson doesn't dress, then I think this could be a week you call up Brandon Johnson.
How long of a leash do you think Calvin Austin has as getting dressed?
Infinity, because he's the punt returner, and he's a really good one.
Who's the backup?
Scotty.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Calvin I can't see him dressing 6 wide receivers. Now, if Rush comes back and he's going to be the gunner along with Miller, and they feel good about those two, and they don't feel like they need Skoranek, then maybe I could see Brandon Johnson. But if Rowan can't go this week or isn't maybe he gets cleared really late in the week and they just don't feel like they have a role for him. I could see Brandon Johnson being active in this game, but probably not 6 wide receivers.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd like to see him get a look, but not necessarily at the expense of not getting Roman's feet wet either, even though it might not bring
you're not
anything.
getting the Russ revenge game. You can get the Brandon Johnson revenge game.
Along with Corliss Waitman.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which some people, I did get a tweet about they appreciated my Waitman joke. So at least one person, that's all I care about. Alan, something that we haven't talked about, and I feel like we probably should talk about, there's a player that I feel like just we haven't discussed at all, like much throughout the summer, and not at all based off his week 1 performance. That's Larry Ogunjobi. Really, the defensive line as a whole, I think, deserves some shine. But Larry Ogunjobi, I thought looked really good in that first game, even live, but certainly when I went back and watched as well. And he had a conversation in the summer. He was kind of just talking to Nick and I, and he was talking about his foot and how this is the first time where it's like felt healthy. And I was curious, man, like he was one of the players that I was really excited to watch in week 1, just to see like if that would come to fruition, like if that would transfer over. I thought he was good in the preseason too, the limited snaps that he played, but I really felt like in week 1 that those words held true, and it does look like he is fully healthy. And man, what a difference maker that would make, because we've talked about this front 7 being such a strength. And I feel like when we were saying that, we weren't even operating under the assumption that like this Larry Ogunjobi would be returning to form. It was kind of just like the Larry O that we've had over the last couple of seasons. So if you're getting now an improvement upon what he's provided, that's completely different.
I think really what it is I believe him if he says his foot's feeling better, but I think most of the impact is the impact of the depth, right? How good was Montravius Adams in that game?
Yeah.
Keanu Benton. Yeah. So now they have like 4 interior D linemen deep where they're feeling really good about putting those guys out there, and they're spreading those reps around a little bit more. And then also we saw on obvious passing downs them go with, instead of 2 interior linemen and two outside linebackers, putting 3 outside linebackers on the field and putting Nick Herbig out there with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. So like they're keeping those guys fresh. So Cam Hayward wasn't playing on a lot of third downs, but Larry was able to pin his ears back. Mon Adams was able to get pressure. I thought Benton was able to get pressure. And all 3 linebackers were able to get pressure. And I thought they really, really worked the depth and that rotation really well. So, I think Larry's – I certainly believe him if he says he's healthier, but I just think fewer reps are going to be really good for him and Cam Hayward this year. I think they're going to be much more explosive because they're able to protect their reps and they're not out there 90% of the game. And, man, we talked about how deep that unit is. And I think, those – and throw DeMarvin Lee Allen there too. Like they just have so much good depth in terms of pass rush ability. I thought Larry was really, really good. He was probably, in my eyes, their best defensive lineman. And that's something we haven't seen. And I think he kind of always had that capability. He's certainly being paid like he should be able to do that occasionally. So that's really good for them on that defensive front.
Yeah, quality of reps over quantity of reps. I agree. I was looking at the snap counts here. Isaiah Loudermilk, 10, DeMarvin Leal, 5, Cam Hayward, 35, Larry Ogunjobi, 34, Keanu Benton, 27, and Monty Adams, 20. So, a nice, spread out there as well.
Yeah,
so,
I thought Loudermilk was good too. It was just all the way around. They were really, really solid. And I think that's the Andy Weidel Eagles thing. Well, that's how the Eagles come at you. And I really think you're seeing this defense. I mean, I understand that we were talked a lot about how they need pieces of the D-line for the future. And they do. Yeah. Adams and Ogunjobi and Hayward are not young players. But, let's talk about Cam Hayward too. Did you watch the All-22 or did you get a chance to go back and rewatch the defensive line play? This was old Cam Hayward. Let's get he's never going to go back to being the same guy again. He was a wrecking ball against the run. Every good Falcons run was way outside. They had nothing doing up the middle at all. And it was all big 97, taking on double teams all game long and still winning. Man, like, I hope that the people that were very loudly like, they shouldn't sign him to a contract. He's 35. He's washed up. He doesn't deserve it. I really hope they watched that game and saw what he still brings to the table.
Yeah, like Drew Dahlman, their center, he's athletic. He's really good in space and stuff like that, but I think there's some questions about his functional strength. I thought that Cam Hayward would definitely have some reps to really get against him, but you mentioned the double teams too, like Chris Lindstrom, one of the best guards in the league, and he had some awesome reps against him. Keanu Benton had some great reps against Lindstrom as well. Like the defensive front as a whole, yeah, very, very good in this game. And like you said, I think if you were just kind of watching this game live, I don't know that you would appreciate it, but watching it back, you can see, oh wow, like they're only having the success on the ground they are when everything's to the perimeter, getting outside. They had no success trying to run inside against this front.
None. Cutbacks and perimeter runs. That's all they had, and they made most of that success by formationally trying to spread the Steelers out and then run out of spread looks with Patrick Queen had a bunch of really tough assignments in terms of where his alignment was for pass coverage compared to where his run gap is. They were doing things that would move him so that he has to go here to be able to be pass coverage, but if it's run, now you're getting him really far away from his run gap. And I thought they did a really nice job of stressing him out. I don't think he had a great first game. I thought he was, probably just okay for his ability, but other than that, they did not really have very much success in terms of anything on the inside at all. And I think that was a huge credit to the defensive line. That unit's in this Denver offensive line is banged up. Garrett Bowles, probably trending towards a questionable designation, and I don't think they're anywhere near as good as the Atlanta offensive line, even healthy. I think that this is a not as good unit. I mean, dude, Caleb McGarry is a good offensive tackle, and TJ Watt just made him look like it was me out there. That's if I envision in my mind's eye what it would be like if I went up against an NFL player. That's what the TJ Watt versus Caleb McGarry tape looked like. I understand that I would actually do worse than that. I'm just saying, I have a hard time imagining it looking any worse than that. That's how dominant TJ Watt was. This defense is a problem, and Bo Nix, not it. So I'm pretty bullish on the Steelers' defense's chances this week.
Well, there's a couple more things I want to hit on. One of those involves the Steelers defense, a particular player within the Steelers defense, Joey Porter Jr. We talked before about was he going to shadow? Would it just be, assignment based off the side of the field? Obviously saw a ton of Drake London in this game. Now you got this Denver offense, and you look at their wide receiver room. Yeah, Courtland Sutton at the top there. I like Josh Reynolds as a player, but there's clearly a drop down from Courtland Sutton within their receiver room, similarly to Pittsburgh after George Pickens. Mike Tomlin actually mentioned that, kind of alluded to the fact that once again, Joey would see quite a bit of the other team's top receiver. And we weren't sure if that was going to be the case at the beginning of the year, at least through the first 2 weeks. It seems like that kind of will be his assignment.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty obvious with Atlanta because Drake London is a big body receiver, and nobody else really that Atlanta has kind of fits that mold, right? Everybody else, I guess Kadero Hodge, but he's not, not anywhere near that kind of player. It's a little different in Denver because Reynolds is also a bigger guy. He's he's not as big as Sutton, but he's 6'2", and so it's not quite as obvious of a game to match him up that way. And Tomlin didn't expressly say that Joey Porter is going to follow Courtland Sutton around, but he was asked about how Porter did against Drake London, and his answer was, well, hey, success in the NFL is week to week. He did a nice job, but I think Courtland Sutton will have something to say about that this week, sort of implying that that's going to be the matchup anyway. So I think you'll see a lot of Porter following Sutton, but maybe not as much as he followed London, just because I don't think it's as obvious of a matchup fit, where it was big, fast, and it was easy against Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last thing that I want to hit on here, Alan, LC Greenwood, part of 6 Steelers, as part of the seniors committee, nominated for the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025. Man, LC Greenwood feels like a long time coming, right?
Man, like this is one of the you look at the how is he not already in the Hall of Fame? It boggles my mind. He's not like there are worse players from the 70s Steelers that are in. I'll tell you that much. And I think there's been a real groundswell. A couple of years ago, Pro Football Reference went back and sort of rewatched every game from 1960 to 1983 and collected the sack stats from before when they became an official NFL statistic. And, LC ended up with like 78 sacks. And it's just like, this is now the guy's 4th all-time in the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are the best all-time probably at sacking the quarterback. And he's not in the Hall of Fame. 4-time Super Bowl winner, 6 or 7-time Pro Bowler. Man, like it's way beyond time for him to be in the Hall of Fame. Honestly, like I think Andy Russell and like Wagner have good cases too. I think there's fatigue. Voters get sick of hearing about the same teams over and over again, but I think they have credentials to be there as well. But LC Greenwood to me has to go in. And also, I just want to shout out, or maybe shout out's the wrong word, but I've long appreciated that when you click on the list of Steelers first-round draft picks on Wikipedia, the first image that pops up is Supreme Court Justice Byron Whizzer White, who was the Steelers' first-round draft pick in 1938 and led the NFL in rushing as a rookie, and then decided to leave football and go study at Oxford because he got a Rhodes Scholarship, and eventually ended up on the Supreme Court. It's just one of those, like, how is this a thing? Stories. He actually, after he did his year at Oxford, did come back to the NFL, played 2 more years for the Lions, then was a lieutenant commander in the Navy. Then he graduated from Yale School of Law and eventually was appointed by President Kennedy as a Supreme Court justice in 1962 and served on the Supreme Court until 1993. Talk about a life. Like, you led the NFL in rushing as a rookie. You were in the Navy for 3 years and rose to the rank of lieutenant commander, and then you went and graduated from Yale School of Law to be a Supreme Court justice. Like, I don't know if he deserves to be. I don't know if he deserves to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but it's just an all-time great story that I'm glad is getting a little bit of shine here.
I'm putting him. I'm not arguing against that resume, even if a very small part of it has to do with football. I don't care. Put him in the Hall of Fame of everything.
This is like how Pete Rose is in the WWE Hall of Fame. Like, I feel like this would be like sort of the exact opposite, but symmetrically opposite way of going about that.
See, this is why it's good that it's not just my call, because I'm also putting in Eugene Lipscomb just for his nickname being Big Daddy. Like, Big Daddy. He's in.
I think, again, like a player on a bad team, those 60 Steelers were awful. And a guy who, very tragically died young. And so, got his career cut short. But I think he was a really good player, and a player that when I've talked to players from that sort of generation that followed, he was kind of a guy that a lot of people feared as a player. And I think if you had asked his contemporaries if he was a Hall of Famer, he would have gotten in. But that's not how it works. And he died in somewhat unfortunate circumstances, and there was some legal trouble after his career. And so I think there's I think this is something where you look back after a lot of time and you say, hey man, this guy probably should have got in. And that's exactly what the seniors committee is supposed to do. And so I think in that regard, job well done here. So they picked Norm Johnson is on this list, and I don't know if I can support that candidacy. I mean, it's a good kicker, but not fitting with the rest of this panel here.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. Is somebody that's honestly not even all that familiar. Like, you kind of just gave me a history lesson there with a couple of those names. But I saw that one. I was like, all right, yeah, really, I'm talking about 5 names here. Those are the ones I got to bring up.
Yeah.
So
yeah, kickers don't. I mean, kickers don't really belong in the Hall of Fame. I mean, if you're like the best kicker ever, fine. But like, get out of here. Yeah.
Do you think Justin Tucker will be?
I think Justin Tucker should be. Yes.
Well, I was gonna. The reason that I asked is all of a sudden, like, do you think, because he started to, I feel like, I don't know if decline is the right word, but certainly struggling more than he used to, especially from 50 and beyond. If he keeps playing and that continues to trend that way, would that impact his candidacy in your eyes, or is it no? You will just think about how good he had been.
I think he already has a Hall of Fame resume.
Okay.
So I don't think I think he should be, but like I think it should be if you were to me, you have to be like the best kicker in the NFL for a decade to be a Hall of Fame kicker, and I think Justin Tucker, if not all of that, was pretty close to that.
I agree. That's fair. Although I shouldn't have said I agree, because the whole reason I wanted you to say that was I feel like there wasn't, any Justin Fields slander today. So I wanted to give the comments something to be able to go at you for. So I wanted you to give some praise to a Ravens kicker. So I just wanted some shade to come your way based off that. So everybody keep in mind, Alan Saunders' answer was yes to Justin Tucker being a Hall of Fame kicker.
I appreciate that.
Or you can tweet at him, which is where you can find Alan along with a lot of other places. Alan, tell them where they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH on X, PGHSteelersNow.com is the site's account, and SteelersNow.com. Promo code Allen 10% off. Derek has a film study that is in the drafts right now that's waiting for me to get done recording this podcast and post it. So if you run to SteelersNow.com and sign up, you'll be able to read it as soon as it drops, and then you'll have Southside Scoop later this week and all kinds of other good stuff. Check it out.
There we go. Send your hate mail. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here. Hit us in the comments with your thoughts on anything we talked about today, a question for a future episode, all that good stuff. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and subscribe over there. And hit us up on TikTok, Steelers Afternoon Drive, and hit me up everywhere. Zachary Smith, PGH, for Alan Saunders and myself. Thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.